I'm Pamela Riney-Kehrberg. I'm Distinguished Professor of History at Iowa State University, and I do rural and agricultural history. To do history is to go in search of the who, the what, the why of events in the past, and it's to begin with questions rather than answers. The farm crisis of the 1980s was not inevitable. There are some things about the agricultural economy that kind of are inevitable, like some small ups and downs because of things like the weather and, the weather in other places in the world. But it didn't have to be inevitable that so many farmers would lose their land all at once. That's the part that wasn't inevitable. When historians think about economic crises, they go in search of the multiple factors that caused any one event. It is almost never just one event that tips the economy over the edge. So when you go looking at the farm crisis, you look for all of the many things that went wrong and added up together made a farm crisis. The Great Depression is another economic event where you have to look for multiple causes. The Great Depression was not caused by the stock market crash. It was big and it was dramatic. It was a really important psychological factor. But when it comes to the things that really affected the economy, there are many other things that are more important, like the fact that there's not an equal distribution of income across the United States, which means that, middle class people, blue collar people, poor people can't just keep on buying and keep the economy going. You have the economy resting on two pillars, basically, on the automobile industry and construction. And when people stop being able to buy, those parts of the economy go into a skid. You have troubled banks. You have a lot of farmers who aren't able to pay their loans. You have an international crisis, an international economic crisis going on. And all of those things come together to create that crisis. So we're not just looking for one contributing factor. We're often looking for as many as 4, 5, 6 contributing factors to some sort of economic collapse. Well, you start to look at all of the various things that went into a particular moment. With the farm crisis, you need to look back to the 1970s, and you need to look at the increase in production that was going on. You need to look at the rising costs that farmers were experiencing. You need to look at skyrocketing land values. And you realize that all of those things together meant that farmers went into a whole lot of debt. And they could keep bumping along as long as the price of their land remained relatively high, because they were borrowing against the price of their land. Then a whole group of things happen that tip them over the edge into crisis. They continue to have high costs of inputs, things like gasoline and machinery and seed. They have low prices for the things that they raise, but that's not enough. On top of that, what happens in 1979 is that the Federal Reserve increases interest rates significantly. We're talking about interest rates that go up as high at times as 24%, which means that farmers who have borrowed a lot of money suddenly owe a lot of money. And not only that, but this increase in interest rates depresses the cost of land. Because if someone has money to invest with really high interest rates, they can make far more money if they go to the bank and get a CD, or if they go to the bank and even open up a savings account so nobody's buying land. The price of land falls, and all of these farmers have borrowed money against their land, which means that they owe far more money than their farms are worth, and you have a farm crisis.